Welcome back to another episode of Let's Stay In.
I'm Anna, and this is Mark.
Now, before we get into today's episode, we got to give you that annoying reminder. Make sure you like, subscribe, download, comment. If there's a button, make sure you click it. Somehow, I think that helps us out.
With that being said, let's just jump right in.
Paige, how we doing? Welcome to the podcast.
I'm good. Just got back from a date, so
there we go.
There we go. Sunday,
and it was a good one.
Yeah, it was a good date.
Thank God. That would have been so awkward if you'd come here and it had been bad.
Oh my gosh, that would have
we would have just debriefed.
I would have been like, "Oh, this is awful." No,
I mean, low key would have been electric for the podcast. But
that's so true.
It is what it is. We'll
Sucks
say
that he was a nice guy.
Yeah,
I know. Good for me.
Yeah. So, all right, Paige. So for people who don't know who you are, let's say you're at a local restaurant. Actually, where did you get that incredible whatever we want to call that dip that you brought over here?
Oh, it's called Something Tony's in Malibu.
Tony's. Okay.
It's like this Mediterranean place, but they had this like caviar avocado dip, and I was like, you'll have to have it. So that's what I brought y'all.
Yeah,
you were housing it.
Okay, so if somebody came up to you at Something Tony's in Malibu and they said, "Dude, who are you? What's your story?" Give you like your 30-second elevator pitch.
Okay, 30-second. My name is Paige. I grew up in Houston, Texas. I have a bachelor's in fashion retail management. I was in celebrity styling, and then I worked for athletic wear companies, women athletic wear companies. Moved to LA a year ago, got moved here for a company called Young LA. Now working for a company called Bombshell, all about women empowerment. I spent a lot of time with my dog, Oliver Garden, and my friends and family, and that's pretty much it. And I love the beach.
Wait, your dog's name is Oliver Garden. That's amazing.
Beautiful.
That's amazing.
Don't want to know why. My ex-boyfriend got him for me, and he said if we ever had children that I couldn't name my child Oliver, so I named my dog because he said it sounded like Olive Garden, so I named the dog Oliver Garden.
Oh, this is after the relationship.
Oh, no, this is during the relationship.
Oh, it's during the relationship.
You're like, cannot tell me what to do.
Yes, so I named the dog Oliver Garden.
Fair.
Yeah, that's very cute, very
So
clever.
he was very anti-soup, salad, and breadsticks, huh?
Obviously.
Who doesn't like Olive Garden?
Yeah, it's a classic, Midwest classic.
Really?
That was a fine quality date growing up, you know?
Oh,
Somebody was like, I'm taking you to Olive Garden. Yeah, that's fine dining right there.
Endless breadsticks.
Yeah.
Abso-friggin-lutely.
She can eat as much soup as she'd like. But, okay, and then you were also on Love is Blind, right?
Yes, I was.
Though that's not a personality trait. We always have to keep that in mind. People are far more than just the TV show they were on. But we were just talking right before we started this about some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that I had no idea about. How many seasons of Love is Blind have you watched on?
I want to say 3.
Okay, which
3.
ones?
I watched the one with Stacy and the bald guy.
That's my good friend. Stacey.
The bald one?
Both of them,
Oh, yeah. So I watched Izzy. I was going to say Iggy. So that one I watched. I tried getting into this season, and I'm so bored. I can't even get myself to watch it.
A lot of them are boring. Even my season, I couldn't watch the people, even though they're my friends.
Yeah.
I was on barely 2 episodes, but I was watching pod scenes, and I would fast forward because it's so boring listening to them talk.
Yeah.
And it's these people, so you don't really care. No offense to hear them talk, but the only people I was invested in were my girlfriend Taylor and Stacy, kind of seeing their stories unfold because it was really beautiful. But just seeing them on camera. But I don't know, it was really interesting because the show is edited. Obviously, TV shows are edited to something else, but seeing it at the end as to how it really was in real life, everything that was happening. But our season was very drama-filled. I think it was the worst season. And people say that, the worst season in Love is Blind.
Which season of Love is Blind were you on?
Season 5.
Season 5, okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one with Iggy and or Izzy
Stacey
and
Stacey?
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good season.
I think that people have said that, the internet comment people, but our season wasn't promoted at all. It was kind of just they wanted it to go away. And I think it was because then they brought on the next season was season 6, and it was just kind of the comeback season. And they had Jess, and she was just such a good personality to bring on the show.
I watched that one. The one where she's you're going to have a heart attack or something. You need an EpiPen when you see me. That one. Yeah.
She just saved the show. I think that, she really brought it back. And then this season was so great too. The entire cast, I've messaged with a lot of them. They're such good people. Brittany's a good friend. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, I feel our season was just a little different in the sense that a lot of these had more love stories and ours was a lot of drama. Okay. Maybe that's why people would say it was the worst season, but I I know there was a lot of drama, so maybe that was it.
That's what I would want. Like, what do you want from a reality TV show? You want drama.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get into, like, how do you end up going on that show? Because I'm always curious.
Okay.
My number one question for anybody who goes on Love is Blind is, like, what was dating life like before that? And what made you finally go? Because it's definitely the most unique reality TV dating experience, right? So what made you go, okay, this is the one that I'm, like, down to do? And did you have any reservations ahead of time and all that?
I mean, I was definitely nervous because there's a whole you get engaged and get married situation. Before Love is Blind, dating was awful, I think. Not great. So I got messaged on Instagram, and it was by a casting guy, and he followed one of my girlfriends. And I was like, oh, let me ask her, is this guy like a real person? Because you get stuff all the time. You never know. Like, oh, I'm doing this show, and they're really not. He was a real person, and he was a great guy. Recruited me for the show, was like, hey, I think you'd be great. I did a few interviews, and then it was like a month-long process, or I'm sorry, year-long process, not month, year-long process. So I wasn't really dating anyone because I was looking to go and get married and find someone. I think that, I always I'm a big lover girl, and I just so badly want to be in love. So I think for me, it was like, okay, why not give this a shot when I've tried dating in the real world and it doesn't really work. And it was really cool because you do take away everything. I had no TV, no phone, nothing besides just connections with these people. So I made very strong connections with the girls, very strong connections with the guys. I'm still friends with them. So I think for me, it was just a beautiful experience and getting to know someone without seeing them. Because actually, if you close your eyes and you talk to someone, the way they look is different.
Oh, yeah.
Than their voice. And it's so crazy because I say this to this day, my ex-fiance, I think they're two different people. I imagined this one person and who he was. And then when I met him, he was great too, but there's two different people. It's so, in my brain, if I were to hear his voice or hear him talking, I don't picture him, if that makes sense. It's really interesting. And you don't get that unless you're in the experience. I'm good friends with a lot of people from the show, so they understand what I'm saying.
Of course. But
you don't really get it until you actually go through it. It's a really unique experience for sure.
Did you respond well to the Love is Blind environment?
I did. I think I did. I mean, I will not lie. I think on the second day I cried. Yeah. And I was like, I miss my mom. I don't have TV. I don't have anything.
Are there windows?
There's so yeah, we're in hotel rooms, and then so you go to a soundstage every day, and then so I know it looks like we're all living together, we're not. So you go to a soundstage, and then you're actually then talking to the cast and crew and everything, and you become close with everyone because it's that's all you have. Besides the outside world. I
was envisioning some sort of bunker, a silo where all of these little pod rooms, and then they go into the hallway. I didn't realize it was a soundstage.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I Googled that once because I was like, I know that they do each season in a different city, and I was like, there's no way in hell they build this everywhere they go.
Yes,
and
no.
And I was like, okay. And then I realized they have a soundstage and they all live in hotels, and I'd done some Googling ahead of time.
I think it's Santa Clarita. But they fly us all out here. So funny. All the girls, we flew in on a 5 a.m. flight. It was these pretty girls at 5 in the morning. They all kind of knew, and I felt so clueless because we all get to the airport, and I'm just like, hey guys, they're all just clustering around and are you here for the show? And I was like, yes. So it was just kind of funny. We all kind of figured that out. But what happens is we'll be at the hotel, and then we'd go at 8 in the morning to film. So I'd be up at 5 doing my hair and makeup because you have to do your own hair and makeup and just kind of be ready. The guys would not have to be there till a little after, and they just wake up and go, must be really nice to be a guy.
Yeah, so brush their teeth.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, so I feel and I want to kind of almost work forwards and then come backwards because when I first reached out to you and we started talking and I found out that you were on Love is Blind, I hadn't seen your season anyway, so I didn't know that essentially they barely showed your relationship. And then when you got here today, we started talking about it, and you were like, yeah, we matched, we got engaged, everything like that, but we didn't go to Mexico afterwards, and they barely showed us on the show. So can you explain, I guess, for people who are, who don't understand, because I didn't understand, that there are people who match on the show who get engaged and things like that they don't show on the show.
Okay, so they on our season there was 8 couples that got engaged, and I know on the other seasons there's been about 8, maybe 9 engagements, I think. And so they usually cut it at 5 to 6. Like this season, they showed 6 couples, I think, but they showed Brittany and, oh my gosh, is it Leo? Brittany and Leo, but they didn't go to Mexico. They let them go too. So they only follow like the strongest couples or couples that they think are going, that they think are going to be strong. And so they didn't follow us, I think, because they said they didn't, I don't know. They just said they weren't going to follow us. But that kind of sucked because, you spend a year prepping for this thinking, okay, I'm going to meet someone, which I did meet someone. And we had such a strong connection. I mean, we'd go to like meet up with the cast after and they're like, oh, Paige and Josh, like we were really in love, but obviously it didn't work out, which is totally great. But I mean, not great, but I mean, it's fine. But from there, they just choose, okay, who's best and then who's not in their eyes, which I was like, okay, some of the couples they picked, that's fine. That's their choice.
That's kind of insulting. Like hey, I would take that I would take it super personally being like, you're not betting on us. Like I feel like that would get me in my head a little bit about our chemistry. And like, is there something that I'm not seeing? Mm-hmm. Did you get into your head a little bit about that?
I don't know. I think I was more mad at like the situation because I had taken off work. I had planned way ahead of time. And like, you've just spent 2 weeks filming like from 8 a.m. to like 2 or 3 p.m. and you're exhausted. You want to go with your friends and have fun in Mexico. Totally. You're like, this sucks. You want to go meet your like person in Mexico and have fun. And so, but we ended up just going home and taking a week off anyways, and just getting to know each other outside of the pods, which worked out great. And I think that, even to this day, it's great that it didn't work out because I'm here now and he has a great life. So it worked out for the best.
So the whole filming experience is 2 weeks long.
Yes. So you're in the pods for 10 days and then you get engaged on the 10th day.
Wow.
That's so wild.
How sure were you?
Oh, I was really sure.
Wow.
Like, early on, we were like, okay, we're together. Like, it was really, I don't know.
Was there a pivotal conversation that solidified that, or was it kind of like an instant feeling?
I think we were each other's first pod dates.
Wow.
Out of the whole thing. We were each other's number one, and it just kept coming back to it. There was other strong connections that I had, but I just remember feeling at ease with him, so it just felt natural. And I think most of my relationships, even after that, now I will be like, if it's natural, then it usually works out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Did it almost feel like, okay, obviously, I mean, I just didn't know enough about Love is Blind before this, but did it almost discredit your experience a little bit that your family and friends didn't get to watch it?
Actually, you know what? That's a question that a lot of people don't ask. And I think what's really interesting is us watching it back when the show airs. Like we had talked about, could we even just see our engagement? Could we see what happened? Because we wanted to watch our story.
Yeah.
And they won't give that to you. But I mean, it did suck because in that timing where you're in contract to not say I'm engaged. You're in contract to not say. So it kind of it is like you're hiding your relationship. And I'm a very open person. So I remember they were like, don't meet each other's families. And that's really hard when you're engaged. You want to have a party. You want to get excited about it. And it was kind of like I had to hide it. And it was really hard. And I think that probably did wear on our relationship for sure. Because we were just to ourselves. And Absolutely. It wasn't, I don't know. But I don't know if it discredited it. But it made me feel sad that other people didn't get to see it.
Yeah, because I feel like that's something like you go on a TV show and then you expect that even if like, okay, I always think about the people who go on The Bachelor and then like the first day, right after the first, whatever they call that opening section, you just go home after that. I'm like, okay, at least they still got to see you come out of the whatever,
proof,
the limo and like they saw you meet him and then they just saw you not get a rose and like, whatever. Okay, at least they understood that. But then for you, it's like, no, I went through the experience. We got engaged at the end of it. And then it's like, okay, cool. I'm about to fire up Netflix and watch this. And it's like, oh, wait, but they don't show us. And it's like, wait, what? So that would be, I don't know. That's irritating. I don't like that model. Yeah. Love is Blind. Change that shit.
I know.
Experiment aside, would you have dated your fiance in real life?
I don't think, what's really interesting is his good friend lived one house over from me and we never crossed paths. And that's crazy. But no, I don't think we would have ever, our worlds are so different in the sense of, we're both from Cyprus, but he lives on one end of Cyprus. I I would go out in Houston, so my social life was very different than his. I don't think we would have actually ever crossed paths, even us being one house away. So, which is really wild because he had been at that house a million times and we never saw each other. So no, I don't think so. Even to this day, if we met, I don't think we would date.
That's right. Do you think that, I don't know if you're someone that believes in the universe and signs like that, but do you believe that that's a sign? Because I feel like when something's meant for you, paths have a weird way of crossing. And if proximity is such a factor of being one house down, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's insane, right? Being one house over. I think I was telling you all about the date I went on today. We both grew up in Houston. I'm 33, he's 35. We have I asked him today, I said, do you think we probably crossed paths in our lives? Because we've been to a lot of the same places, growing up. So I wonder if we had ever been in the same place. So you never know. But I just think, I do think that that's a huge factor. I think that maybe that was fate, because out of all the guys on the show I could have matched with, I matched with someone that I could have possibly crossed paths with before any of the other guys. I don't think I would have crossed paths with either.
Yeah.
So very interesting.
How did you feel like the Love is Blind pod experience was different than a typical date that you would go on? Because obviously when you go on a normal date, you ask questions and things like that, but obviously you're looking at each other, you're maybe at dinner, you maybe have a drink, whatever. Yeah. And so when you're in the pod and you're looking at the wall essentially, right? Yeah. What are you, how does that change the questions that you're asking, the conversations that you're having? Did you notice big differences?
I think that it's probably not as, it's a good connection because you're obviously you're in this experiment, you're alone, you're only talking to this one person. So it's very focused in. But I think when you're having a one-on-one conversation, eye contact's huge. We've been talking this whole time, I'll look you in the eye and that makes you feel important. So I think that that's something that is taken away, the actual experience of getting to physically see someone, look them in the eye, have that connection. And I think that there being if I was just not looking at y'all right now, I feel there's no emotional connection right there. So you have to find other ways to connect.
Yeah.
And I think the questions you asked too, we had tons of questions that were prompted that we'd ask all the time. So it was one day is asking very serious questions about what do you want out of life? Things like that. And so definitely, I don't know. I think that, it's is it cutting out?
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I think that it cuts it off for you, the actual physical part. And yeah.
Did you feel like your experience on Love is Blind affected the way that you handle dating in the real world?
It did. The way that I date now, it's not that I wasn't dating intentionally before, but I'm very upfront in the beginning. When I'm dating someone, I ask all the questions. I'm okay, so what do you want out of life? What are your passions? What do you want kids? Do you what are your daily habits? What are the things that you do? And how do you even I keep bringing up my date today, but we had these conversations of I asked him, I'm so if I were to let's see, I'm trying to word this in a way. I think we talked about just hypotheticals, being married and things like that. And I think that in my past, I'd be too scared to ask someone a question like that, or a partner, because I don't want to scare a guy away and I don't want them to think, oh, she's coming on aggressively, or oh, she must really like me if she's going to ask these questions. Now it's no, now I'm just asking these questions because they are serious. Guys will ask me, because I am 33, which actually we had this conversation today, and I said, I think it's really inappropriate that guys ask this, because guys don't get asked this, but they'll ask me, oh, so are you ready to have kids then? Because you're 33 and you'll be 40 soon. And that's
that's a big jump, 7 years.
Not really that soon.
Yeah. And so I've had a lot of guys say that to me in dating, and I don't even think about my age, because I usually I date guys who are younger. So, and they're the ones that you sometimes ask, and it is insulting, because you're okay, so is all I'm good for is having a child one day. I don't know.
Yeah. Guys largely debase their dating on how ready you are to have kids. Exactly. I've heard that from so many of my guy friends, where they're yeah, we talked about kids, but she wants them the next 3 years and I don't want them for 5. So wrote her off. And it's whoa, so you asked a broad question, she gave you an answer, and it didn't match up somehow. So then therefore you moved on. Answers can change.
Yes, and they can. And I think that there's so many, the plethora of the dating pool. It's well, there's another girl, I'll find another one. I think that's why, back then when our parents used to date, it was very, oh, well, I found this person, I'm going to make it work. And I think now it's like, well, I'll just get on a dating app and find someone else. And that's just, it sucks. I'm like an old school romantic, and I'm like, I'll meet someone, I'll make it work. Like, and I think that a lot of people don't think that way. No. And so it's really interesting. Like the guy that I met today, he thinks like that too, like just like kind of old school, but it's very different. Dating here and dating in Texas is, so in Texas, you get married, have kids, all of that. Here, it's like very like you get, and that's early in life. I mean, when I was in my 20s, that's all I wanted. And then when I found out like my career and I love it, then I was like, you know what, I want more. I want to have a career, but I also do want to get married and have kids. So I don't know. I think that it changes. Answers change. And I think that, but for women, that is a hard thing that I think that like we have to be ready to answer. Because you're right. It's like, and am I going to be ready in a few years? I don't know. Like what if I did get pregnant? Then okay, then I'd have to be ready tomorrow. You're never going to be ready for anything in life. So I agree. I think it's just kind of figuring that out.
I do think from the guy's perspective, there's an inherent, you want to make sure that you're also not robbing them of that experience, right? Because I know people who are in their 30s, whatever, that have now said because of a long relationship that didn't pan out, I feel like my ability to have children was robbed from me. Right.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's terrible. Like that sucks. And so it's like, I think it is important to have, in an appropriate manner, right? Yeah. Have a conversation about when are you looking to have kids? And if so, do you have a certain, timetable that you're on? Because I think certain people do definitely say like, oh yes, I am looking to, and like, this is basically when I want to, whether that plays out or not is a whole nother thing, but I think they have an idea of it. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I think there's other people that are like, no, I'm not actively thinking about it that much. And then there's other people that are like, I don't want to have kids. I think making sure you're on the same page. And I think going back to what you were saying earlier is that Love is Blind kind of makes it where after that experience, you're like, hey, I'm willing to have kind of like the deep questions and the deep thoughts right away, because you do want to make sure at some level that where you see your life going is in the same direction that this person sees their life going. Because I do think there's a lot of times that people try to like almost take two different paths that are completely opposite of each other, and they just try to force it to work. And it's like at the end of the day, if two people have different wants and needs, then it probably isn't going to work. Yeah. And I do think, in an appropriate way, it's important to have that conversation so that you're not essentially wasting someone's time, which I think a lot of people do. And we see it all the time where friends will say, after a year or two into a relationship, they're like, we had this fundamental difference. And it's like, well, shit, you may have been able to figure that out a little bit sooner earlier if you had the hard-hitting questions right away rather than kind of like taking your time with that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd recently been seeing someone that I think I told you about him. This was a while ago. We talked like 3 weeks ago. I was still seeing him, no longer, obviously, but he is trying to go to law school, and I was like super supportive, so I didn't understand why he was super standoffish. But anyways, we immediately, I think on our third date, talked about, religion, children, all these things, and he said, well, if I'm going to law school, then in the next like 4 years, do you want kids before 4 years? And I was like, I'm not thinking about it, like you said. And so I don't think that should be an issue for us right now. I'm focused on my career. You can focus on yours. And when that time comes, we can figure it out. So yes, I do have those serious conversations with people that I am seeing immediately, because it's like, I don't want to waste their time. They don't want to waste mine. And I think that maybe in the past when guys have asked me that, I think it was probably not in the correct way. Yeah. And it was like the younger guys being like, so like, you're going to have kids soon, right? And I'm like, okay, like that's not the way you say it to me.
Right. There's a condescending way to ask it. And then there's like an actual, fact finding, experience versus just being a dickhead about it.
Yes.
Actually, like you have an expiration date.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what it felt like. So with the guys that like I actually take seriously, they've asked in a very respectful way that I appreciate. So yeah, there's a difference. I think you're right. And I think that is good as a man to ask that, because you don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste yours either, because if you don't want to have kids for like 10 years, then it probably won't work out, because I would like to have them sooner than later. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
And I think people should be able to have hypothetical conversations without there feeling like this innate pressure that like, I want it with you.
Exactly.
In general, broad terms, like I want to have kids in 3 years. I'm not saying, I'm looking at you. Don't flatter yourself and thinking babies, 3 years, you and me.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you should be able to have those conversations. And that's why I think it's really beautiful. After Love is Blind, I'm able to then ask guys these questions that I asked immediately straight on because I was trying to find someone I wanted to marry. And so it's like, okay, I'm still doing that, but just in the real world and my own way. And dating with intention. A lot of people don't date with intention. They're just dating to date. And I think that that's hard to find too, but it is good for the people that you do find. I don't know.
So after you went on Love is Blind, were there like specific questions now that you're like, okay, you know what? I learned a lot about somebody in the pods and whatnot by asking these questions. These are some questions I'm going to take forward with me when I go on dates now. Are there any questions that you're like, these are my go-to? If I'm going on a first date, these are the questions I'm asking. Yes,
actually, before I ended my engagement, this was a question that I ask now because it was one of the reasons we ended it was I said, what do you want out of life? Like, what is like, where do you see yourself? What career, what life do you want? And I asked him and ours didn't align and that's okay. But I asked that immediately when I go on dates. I'm like, okay, do you have a career? I'm very invested in mine. I've been working at it for the last 5 years and I've moved up really quickly. And for my life, I want to keep progressing in that. And I want to be in LA and like he obviously wanted to be in Houston. So those are things where it's like, where do you see yourself? Where do you want to live? And I mean, with some guys are like, oh, you know what? I'd want to move to New York or things like that. And it's like, okay, well, I don't live in New York. So, but I mean, so it's like, I want to get married and have kids in Los Angeles and that's where I want to be. So I'd want my partner to want to be here too. So I think just asking them, where do you see your life is like the main question I ask. And also, are they passionate? Because I always say this, like if a guy's not passionate about himself or the things that he does, how can he ever be passionate about me? And I think that's like a very true statement that I live by. I'm like, if I don't see you excited for something, like you're not going to be excited for me. And I'm like the girl in the morning who's has her coffee, who's dancing around the kitchen, and I'm a lot. So like if I have a guy that's just, not like that, then it's probably just not going to work out, and like they have to be okay with that. And I'm okay with that too. It's like, well, we're just two different people and that's okay. But I think kind of finding out what they want out of life is like the question that I mostly ask because that's where I found myself at a standstill where it's like, all right, where do you see your life? You see your life this way. I see my life this way. All right, we have to move on because it's just not going to work. And that's a hard pill to swallow if you really care about someone. But also it's like very mature and realizing, okay, we want different things out of life and that's okay. And that's, I don't know, I think it's also beautiful to kind of just also respect yourself enough to move on.
Absolutely. I feel like your ambition can also waver when you don't have a partner that matches that. And it doesn't mean that you both need to be hustlers and grinders and all that stuff. But I feel like if you feel like you have to make excuses for working harder to make them feel better, it's not going to work. And I know I've been in relationships where I have felt guilty going on work trips because I knew they'd just be sitting at home. And it's kind of like, can you do that as well?
Yes.
In my current relationship now, we're always traveling for work. We're working every single day, morning to night. And it just feels like we're motivating each other consistently to be better and to reach whatever goal. And like, we'll always be there.
Yeah. I think so. Actually, again, I had this talk on my date today. I asked him, I said, if we were to be together, I think that it's important to be with someone who, like you said, has the same, or at least drive. Because I couldn't see myself dating someone, marrying someone who is, if I'm getting up and going to the gym, they're staying home. If I'm eating healthy and they're not, if they're not taking care of themselves, that's something that's huge to me because I grew up with a lot of medical issues. So I had to be at the hospital a lot. My family took care of me. My mother always made sure that I was okay. And so for me, that's the kind of parent I would want to be if something was happening with my children. I now tell partners, I'm like, okay, if they don't take care of themselves, their health, then that's a huge red flag for me. If you're not going to the doctor, if you're not going to the dentist, if you're not taking care of the things that you need, how do I know that if I have a child, you're not going to then take care of them and do those things for them? And I think that's such a huge thing too, that I do ask now. I'm like, do you take care of yourself? And how do you take care of yourself? And I think that, I don't know, another thing that is huge for me is just, I always say this, because I'm I'm a very nice girl, very sweet girl, but I'm very alpha energy with the way that I act. And I can't be, I think, a feminine woman around a guy that I'm always having to take care of. If I'm having to take care of myself all day and then come take care of you, then I am not feeling giddy and girly because I'm having to basically be the man of the house and do every single thing. And it's then I don't feel comfortable enough to be a woman. And I think that's a huge thing for me that I do have that conversation with guys too, actually. I'm like, if I'm having to do everything, then for me and for you, what are you bringing to the table? And And people always, well, they're bringing themselves, and that's, I'm bringing myself too. But also, why don't, like, I just don't know. I also say you're not bringing 50-50. We're both bringing 100 all the time. And I think that bringing 100 of myself and you bring 100 of yourself, and then we go together and then we kind of make our lives mold together. If not, that's okay. But I can't be with someone that I have to, like, what is it? I've heard it. It's like, if I have to wear the pants, like, because he's not going to, it's like, then it's just not going to work, because I don't want to do that all the time.
It's easy to fall into the mom role as well as women. And like, there is nothing less sexy than feeling like your boyfriend's mother.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Like, I can't make you feel better about yourself. You know, I've dated a lot of insecure guys, and they always are like, I feel like what happens then, actually, I thought about this on the way here. I was thinking about something we could talk about. And for me, when I'm constantly taking care of someone else, I'm like, okay, I already take care of myself, and I'm taking care of you. Like, emotionally, it's draining. I can't just, I'm sitting there taking care of all your emotions. Like, in the relationship, or I guess situationship thing that I was previously in, it was take. Only his, like, I guess, needs mattered. And so I'm always worried about him, worried, is he okay? Is he happy? Is he healthy? Is he taking care of himself? And then I'm sitting there worried about him. No one worries about me. And then obviously I worry about myself. My family worries about me. But in a relationship, you don't want to just be giving, because then you're just exhausted, and then you resent the person. And then you're like, okay, well then that's unfair to them. And then it just becomes all unfair. And then you're like, oh, it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
So like, it just becomes defeating too, because having to take care of a man, it's like, if I can take care of myself, and I'm this small little girl, you can take care of yourself too.
Totally.
Like, I don't understand, like, how, I don't know.
That's why I think it's important to live on your own as a guy at some point, because like I've done it for probably maybe too long at this point. I've lived alone for 8 years, and it's like, honestly, going on 9, fuck, that's wild. But it's like, you know, I lived on my own when I was 23, right? Yeah. And so it was like, I had to learn very quickly, okay, hey, the house isn't getting cleaned up unless like I clean it. The you know, you're not getting more toilet paper unless you go and buy it. The, you know, bills aren't getting paid unless you go and do it. You know, my buddies came over yesterday, and they were like, you got that Christmas tree yourself? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, and you set it up? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, it needs ornaments. And I'm like, okay, all right. Listen, I get that. I'm like, okay, I went to Target, I bought the tree, I came here, I set it up. Listen, I'll get the ornaments next. They had some weird ones at Target. Okay, I need better ones. But but yeah, it's like, I think it's important for, as a guy, to live on your own, because now if I'm dating, it's like, I don't need you to cook, clean, do all these different things. And I'm not going to ask that of you, because I do that thing already. So if we want to do those things together, I would like that. But I'm not going to start dating somebody and then all of a sudden be like, okay, hey, I expect you to clean the place. It's like, well, wait, you were already doing that. Why all of a sudden you start dating somebody, she's going to do it? No, you both clean the place. You know, if you're living together or whatever, you know, cooking, I like cooking. I would like to cook with her. You know, it's like things like that. And so I think a lot of times people just don't live on their own. And so they're used to, the last time they really saw that kind of dynamic was when they were at home with their parents, right? And so however their dad was with their mom is kind of how they're going to be, right?
Exactly.
And so I think it's important as a guy to live alone and kind of learn how to be an adult and take care of yourself, so that you're not expecting somebody else to do that for you.
And I think as like a man or a woman, in terms of taking care of yourself, I think a little bit selfishly in the way that that person is going to ultimately affect the quality of my life later on. So I'm thinking, okay, if you're not going to the doctor, you're drinking too much, you're taking drugs, things like that, you're cutting our time short. I sign up for one partner. I would like to do it with the same person to the end. Yeah. And if you do something that's detrimental to your health, you're doing that to me then. And I don't want to be sitting there alone at 70, 80, 90, because you could have taken a little bit better and been a little bit more conscientious for the sake of something that's greater than just yourself.
Yeah. And I think it's when you choose a partner and you're in a partnership, it's like, okay, I have chosen this person for a reason, and I'm choosing to take care of myself, also take care of them, but make sure that they also want to take care of themselves and take care of you. That's why people are together, to build a life together. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're right. I don't want to be with someone that's, you know, drinking all the time, doing those things, because I mean, yes, drinking's fine. I drink, but I don't drink like heavily every day by myself. But I do think that if someone was doing that, I couldn't be their partner because that's just not my life. Like I wake up, I go to the gym, I have a dog, like I have my job. And so for me, it's like, okay, take care of all those things throughout the day. At the end of the day, I just want to have dinner with someone and, you know, just actually like sit in silence. I don't know, just like be with someone. And I think that choosing that person to be with till the end is really important, like obviously. But I think that having to ask all those questions like you asked, I think that those are heavily important because to me, now it's like those things affect me. And then not only will they affect me, they'll affect my children. And so that will affect my entire life and then affect someone else's entire life. So choosing someone will ultimately affect someone else and other people. And it will affect everyone around you.
Totally.
So it's like if I chose a partner that was awful, that treated me badly, then that would then affect my mental health and the people I'm around. I don't know. I think that all of it is just like such a domino effect. I don't know. I think that's how the world works, though.
I think that's why when people say like, oh, this little small thing that they do bothers me, but it's just a small thing. And I'm like, okay, but depending on what it is, right? There's certain small things that you can't overlook because the problems down the road start off as small things down at the beginning, right? Yeah. And so there are certain things that you need to pay attention to. And you know, if you're talking to a guy or whatever, and you're like, the worst thing about him is like his sense of style. Okay, cool. That's a small thing that can be worked on, right? But
it's hard to live in fear of your boyfriend's next outfit.
But you know, it's like if his small thing that bothers you is that like, oh, he's snappy and gets angry quickly. It's like, whoa, well, maybe that's not one we overlook. You know, oh, it's only every once in a while. No. Like run. But I think it's a important thing to notice the small things at the beginning and see, are these small things going to affect how our future looks? Because again, it's hard to always know what's going to happen 10 years down the road. But again, if you look at their habits, if you look at their, you know, their personality traits, you look at the way they go about life and things like that, you can kind of figure out how they're going to continue to like grow and evolve and things like that. Right. Yeah. And one of the things I always ask everybody is like, what genuinely makes you happy? And to me, it's like I learned so much about you by asking that question, because by figuring that out, I figure out if the things you like doing are things that are similar to me, the things that make you happy, are they similar to what makes me happy? And if ours are drastically different, okay, it's probably not going to work. But like, you know, again, I want to know what makes you happy. And is that something that I also like? But if somebody mentions something that's so drastically different than me, then like, okay, probably not going to work.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's kind of like the couple where, I mean, I'm not saying this can't work, but the girl that like gets joy off of fancy dinners, you know, 5-star hotels and designer goods, and then being with the guy that just wants to be in nature and like believes that material goods weighs him down. And like, you know what I mean? Is like, it's pointless.
Yeah.
Those two, like not even the ethics, just the values and the priorities. I don't feel like that can really coexist like in a positive manner, at least. No. Someone's going to end up changing or at least compromising.
I agree. I think that I'm the girl that likes both. So I don't know.
That's great.
I feel like for me, it's like, I mean, because it's just, and it is different though. Like I said, 2 different lifestyles are definitely hard. But I think that like what you were saying is like what ultimately makes someone happy. I ask that. I'm always like, what makes you happy? Like people ask me all the time. I actually had this question the other day. They're like, are you actually this happy all the time? Of course, I'm not always this, hey guys, like super happy, like the positive person that I put out there. Yes, I'm a happy person. Do I have my bad days? Of course. But I'll have a bad day and something horrible will happen to me. I'll be upset for a moment and then I rationalize and I'm like, okay, how do I change this? What did I do to contribute to the situation? How do I fix it? And I think that that's something that would probably make me a good partner, because I hate talking about recent things, but like the guy I had been recently saying, he was having a hard time with things and he just kept pushing me away and being mean to me. And to me, it's like, okay, well, that's a red flag. I don't want to be with someone that pushes someone away, or that when things are hard, they act that way. So it's like, for me, with any situation and friendships, career, anything, I always take like situations or feedback as a lesson and what did I learn. And it's like, okay, well, I learned I don't want that. Or I learned, okay, if I made a mistake, then I'll fix it. So I don't know. I think that ultimately all of that, just like it all kind of coexists in everything.
Do you feel like being resolution oriented contributes to being a more positive person? Do you think that's like the main contribution?
Yeah, I think I try to just rationalize, because I'm very, like, I don't know, after something happens, my mom will say, okay, so what do you think you did to make this happen? And I'm like, that's a serious question to ask me. But I actually love that question, because it's like, how things don't just happen to you. You are definitely a part of every situation that you are, I don't know, that happens. And I think that for me, yes, it makes me more positive, because I think, okay, I contributed to this in a certain way and I could have acted this way. And then it's like, but I would rather be positive about it, because then there's nothing else to do. Life is so short, and it's just like, why would I harp on things or dwell when I could be happy about it instead?
I think like taking responsibility makes it feel like, it doesn't just make it feel, it is control of the situation, which then makes there a resolution. And like what we were talking about earlier is, someone can be mean to you, but if you continue to show up, it's not your fault that they're mean to you, but it is your fault for continuing to show up.
Yes.
So you do play a part in your own feelings getting hurt, and then you only can take so much. So then you're contributing ultimately to your peace of mind being disrupted.
No, I totally agree. I mean, for those situations, it's like, okay, what did I do? But you talk about these things about relationships and things, saying, okay, like when something's over, you mourn the loss of what you thought it could be. And then so you don't just mourn losing the person, you think about all those things. And then also in those situations, what did I do? How did I handle it? Did I overthink it? Probably. Everyone overthinks. And what did I do to contribute to this? Was I giving false hope to myself? Or just like, I could have handled it differently, I'm sure. And better, to where I definitely hurt my own feelings, I'm sure, because they weren't even thinking about it. So yeah, definitely contribute to any situation. I mean, I always think that, okay, I walk away from any situation thinking I've given it my all, and everything I've done, I could try to do. Did I do it perfectly? Probably not. Did I at least try though? Yes. I always used to say this. Actually, I still kind of say it, but it's like, do you know what I do? And then people are like, what? I'm like, my best. Like, I just do my best, and that's all I can do. And it's like, so I'll just try. And like, I think that's all. I mean, I could really ask out of someone too. It's just like trying.
Yeah. And I think when you know, I mean, in every situation, you can learn from, like I always say, it's like, I can't control what other people do. I'm not going to attempt to control what other people do. Yeah. But I want to know moving forward, what can I do? If I got hurt in a situation, if I went through a bad breakup or whatever, I want to know, what can I do moving forward to try to minimize the chances of something like that happening again, right? Yeah. There's always going to be things that are outside your control, but like, what can I do to help minimize the likelihood of that occurring again, right? Yeah. And I think when you look at it that way, instead of sometimes just being like, woe is me, this stuff just happens to me, whatever. It's like, no, think about, again, what you can do. And I think one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people do is when we hold on to the idea of what we want somebody to be and not what they actually are. And so whether it's like friendships, relationships, how many times do we tell ourselves this person is so fucking awesome? And then when you like actually write it down on paper, you're like, this person low key kind of blows, but like I don't want to be wrong because I've invested time, I've invested energy, I have feelings for this individual. Again, whether a friendship, relationship, whatever it may be, a job, all these different things, you've invested so much energy into it that you're like, damn, I just want to be right on it. And that's where I try to remind myself in that moment, that feeling is coming from a selfish feeling, right? Of just not wanting to be wrong. Sometimes the best thing you can do is admit you've been wrong. Admit that the person that you thought was amazing is not that amazing. That friendship that you thought was that great is truly not that great. Yeah. That job that you thought was going to be perfect for you is not that perfect for you. Sometimes to get to that next chapter of like true happiness that you actually want and deserve, you also have to admit that you've been wrong on something previously and to forgive yourself for that at the same time, right? Forgive yourself, learn from it, and then move forward. But again, if you're staying in something simply because you don't want to admit that you were wrong on it to begin with, then you're just prolonging the unhappiness that you're going through. Admit that, accept the truth for what it is, learn from it, move forward, and like better days are always going to be ahead.
No, I agree. I think I always say this, like in situations when things go bad, I moved out here for a job and it didn't go the way I thought it would. And, it just wasn't a good fit. And that's got to be devastating. I had never left my home. And moving out here was totally scary, being in LA by myself. And it didn't work out because it just wasn't the right fit. And I'm so grateful for that because after that, I was able to really, truly kind of see what I want to do and see what kind of company I wanted to work for and the kind of people I wanted to work around. And I think that was the biggest blessing because it brought me out here, and it's like, okay, well, I'm out here. It's what I needed. So I saw it for what it was. Okay, it got me out here. I'm not leaving. I'm just going to do whatever I can to stay. And I think that's really beautiful. I think that, when doors close, all the other doors open. I always say this. And like when one door closes, if something happens, I've always, like, every time I always say, God will open every single door for you. And it just feels so right. And I think that's in friendships and relationships and career. When something has happened, I'm like, okay, you know what? This was actually a blessing in disguise. I had friendships that I've lost that I was devastated for. I lost one of my, not lost, but lost the relationship with a very close friend. And it was traumatizing for me. And it's not that I don't think about her all the time. It's really sad. Losing a best friend over a guy.
It's the worst.
Oh gosh, no, it's the worst. But I think it's really beautiful. She has a great life and I have a great life. And I think that that's just but even then we went our separate ways for a good reason. It's just we just sometimes great things come to an end and that's okay. Yeah. So yeah.
It's the old expression. Sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's what my grandma used to say. Question for you, kind of circling back to Love is Blind. If you had a friend of yours that said to you, I'm debating going on a reality TV show, after your experience, I guess, what would your advice be to them? Or are there specific questions you would ask them to kind of figure out if it's a good fit? What are your thoughts on somebody going on reality TV?
Do you know what's really cool is I actually had a friend of a friend reach out to me about going on, I think it was a Mormon TV show, and he wanted my perspective. And I said, you know what, it's really interesting. I didn't talk a lot about sex on TV. And I said, and if you don't feel comfortable, I said, that's all you say is, I'm not going to talk about this. I said, he asked me, would you do it again? I said, yes, I would definitely do it again. I said, the experience that I had pushed me further to grow as a person than in a lot of aspects of my life. I, at that time, had just, my entire life was my job. And that was who I was. That was my personality. That's who I was. And it kind of pushed me to find love. And it pushed me after that to kind of see things really clearly for what they were. And that I'm not my job. I'm not that. I am a person. I have all these great things. And I don't know. I think that going on a show that secludes you and makes you kind of reevaluate and makes you grow is a really beautiful experience. And I would definitely tell them to go for it because, yes, I wasn't really shown on TV, but that doesn't matter. I got a great experience out of it. I have great friends. I've met great people that I'm friends with here now that were on TV. I've met people that in the Netflix sphere that are my friends. So I have a really great network from it. So some of those people are my closest friends, and I would not have met them had I not been on the show. So I think the connections that you make are so amazing. And they're lifelong connections. Anyone could say that. the whole Love is Blind community is everyone's so nice and so loving, except for some of those that aren't. But
isn't that life though?
Some of those people aren't that nice.
Everyone was great except for the ones that weren't.
Yeah, they were great except for the people that weren't. But a lot of the people are, for the most part, really nice and really kind. I don't know. I think I would tell someone to definitely go for it, but to not, I guess, back down on who you are and kind of keep that strong. I think that, there was, on my season, I'm usually the loudest person in the room, even though I'm small. But when the cameras would roll, I'd just be chilling. I didn't care. I'd act like they weren't there. I've been in TV before, all these things. I've been around the entertainment world since 2020. So I wasn't ever nervous. And these girls, some of the girls, the TV, the cameras are they start rolling. They're ah, and I'm oh my gosh, this is a lot. You're just acting at this point, and that's just crazy. And so it's really cool, actually. I think someone that's a perfect example out of reality TV is my friend Stacy. She was herself 1,000% on the show, exactly who she is in real life. She doesn't act. She doesn't you didn't get to see me, but no, I'm exactly myself. And I think that's someone that I would say, okay, she was exactly herself. She stood her ground. She's an amazing woman. And I don't know, I think that's a good thing to be, is just stand your ground, be who you are, and then ask yourself, like, why am I going on this show? If it's like a competition show, okay, totally, why not go? That's fun. And then, but if it's like a love show and you're actually going to find love, then I would say go for it, because, you know, like my girlfriend, she was the Bachelorette, and obviously it didn't work out for her, but she got such a beautiful experience. She grew from it. She did find love at one point, and then it wasn't. But I think that, you know, in that, she did grow a lot, and she's a really good person. And I think that it just like forms who you are, and forms how you date, and forms how you treat people around you. And I know that she's such a good person. She would never, like, the hurt that she went through, she would never do that to someone else. So, like, I just think that, like, you grow from these shows. Like, I think it's a really cool experience that, yes, it's heartbreaking and sad, but it's also beautiful. And, like, you learn so much throughout all of it. So, yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. I think that's a great way to end.
Yeah. Well, Paige, we'll have to have you on, because I feel like you can talk about any subject.
I could.
Such a nice voice, too. It's so relaxing.
Yeah.
I've been like
she's falling asleep.
I've been falling asleep in like a soothing way, not in a bored way.
You should know
great voice.
that it's so funny. The guys in the pod said that I had a great voice.
You do.
I know. I should have been a call girl.
I feel like you could do
100%.
I feel like you could do some. I was gonna say there's two different types of call.
1-800.
Yeah. I feel like you could do ASMR too.
You think
my
so?
God, yes.
Wait, what is
like
that?
the little set, like. And then she went to the grocery store. Hello. Yeah. I fall asleep to that.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I feel like you could do ASMR.
Look into it. You can make some money there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing.
But we'll have to have you back on. But this has been a lot of fun, and I feel like I learned a ton. I didn't know a lot about the shows, beforehand.
Maybe we got to get you on Love Is Blind, sir.
Nope.
Oh yes.
No, I will never go on reality TV.
Bachelor.
No, hard pass on all of them. I'm good. But I will enjoy having people
Naked
on the
and
podcast.
Afraid. Naked and Afraid.
Naked and Afraid, I would do. That would be fun. Any competition show, I would do in 2
She's
seconds.
like, no.
My God,
Maybe
so
not.
vulnerable.
Maybe not naked.
You're really all naked, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want my dick just flopping around, but like that's kind of awkward feeling. I don't like just.
Or is it freeing?
I don't normally just walk. I don't know. I'm not like the.
You're not Mr. Naked.
Yeah, I don't really know many guys that are like we just walk around dick out. It's kind of
really.
Yeah.
Do you ask?
No, but like, you know how women will be like, we love being like, there's plenty of women that are like, I love being naked. Like
I walk around my place naked.
Same.
That's why I had to get a place that faced the mountains, because the one that faced the pool, my girlfriend was like, you walk around naked, you cannot.
Everyone's going to see you.
Yeah.
I
think one of my neighbors once, I forgot a coffee in the fridge, and I was upstairs about to shower, and I was like, I kind of want a little sip of coffee right now.
No.
So I came walking down the stairs, and like right as I like hit the like top step that can see through the window there.
Good morning.
The one time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they saw. It is what it is.
Well, lucky them.
Yeah.
Lucky them. I love
Have a
it
great
for them.
day.
Yeah. But Paige, appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have you back on. But
absolutely.
But yeah, and then thank you for bringing that incredible dip. That dip was amazing.
God, we're gonna be getting to that right now.
Yeah,
that's why I have Mindy the podcast. Actually, is I'm hungry.
They're hungry.
It was. We're gonna shout them out again. It's called something Tony.
Tony's.
In Malibu.
Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what it's called. I actually have a photo of it. I took a photo because I was like, I want to remember this place. It's called I'm gonna say that wrong. How do you say that? Taverna Tony.
Taverna Tony. I thought when you first said it, it was literally called something Tony's.
No.
Something Tony.
Something Tony.
Taverna Tony's.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll be doing that next time.
Okay, yeah, that
There's
dip looked amazing.
caviar in their dip.
Yeah,
okay.
Looked incredible.
So bougie.
Or not
love
looked
it.
incredible, tasted incredible. But Paige, thank you for coming on, and yeah.
Thanks for having me.
So great meeting you.
So fun.
All right, love you guys.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.